In order to transcend the restless mind, we have to understand why it is restless. What is it that makes the mind restless? And how do we control that? That's exactly what we're going to cover in today's video. I want to share with you what I've observed for the past few years in my own mind as I've been practicing self inquiry and meditation. What I've observed about the mind being restless and also the mind being restful. What creates a restless mind and what leads to a restful mind. For the purpose of this video, become very present. Take a moment to actually slow down. This itself is a great tool at your disposal to calm the restlessness of your mind. Multiple times per day, slow down. Begin now while you're actually going to be watching this video. Take a deep breath and be here now. Don't worry about what's coming up later. Don't even worry if you will benefit from this video. So that brings us to our first point. Perhaps notice thoughts arising in the mind right now, just talking about what you can perhaps gain from this moment, always measuring this moment up against some sort of standard, if it is bringing you the stimulation you want, or if it's going to help you get somewhere, achieve something, get more pleasure. Notice how the mind is always trying to make this moment into a means to an end. It's trying to actually get somewhere else. And it's always measuring the contents of this moment based on if they're going to help it get where it's trying to go. So perhaps you clicked on this video because your mind is restless, or maybe you just want to learn more about the restless nature of the mind. So the moment you click on the video, automatically the mind starts to see instantly, like it needs some sort of instant hit of approval if it is helping or it's not. And it's just like this talking, constantly interpreting, judging, describing the experience. Can you, for a moment, experience this experience without the need to dive into judgment? Be here now without needing to describe, interpret, judge. So, if we wish to understand the restlessness of mind and how to dissipate that restlessness into peace, calm, we have to come to observe in our day to day life how the mind always wants something. And the opposite side of this wanting is concern. If you take an inventory of all your thinking, you will notice that it revolves around what I want and what I don't want, what I like, what I don't like. It revolves around this duality rooted in personal concern. Even wanting is a concern, personal concern. The more we are lost in these ideas of who I am and what I want in my life, what must happen and what must not happen, To that degree that we are attached and lost in that mental commentary, to that degree, the mind grows more and more restless. It really revolves around what in the Buddhist teachings they call the eight worldly concerns. The mind is always talking and chasing gain, worldly gain, and therefore the opposite of that is also born. If it's chasing gain, it's avoiding loss. So those are two of the worldly concerns, gain and loss. You, the person, want to gain all the things that you want, and you, the person, want to avoid losing anything that you currently already possess. The mind measures its own self-worth based on what it gains and what it loses. When you gain something, the mind feels great, right? And it thinks so highly of itself. And when you lose something, you feel like a part of you has been lost. The mind feels terrible and its self esteem takes a huge hit. Another two worldly concerns are pleasure and pain. The mind, if you observe it, and that's something you're going to have to do after you watch this video, observe your mind throughout the day-to-day life and see like, hey, what was just being thought about? And you'll notice that its mental commentary revolves around chasing pleasure and avoiding pain. So we covered gain, loss, pleasure, pain. You know how much the mind is addicted to pleasure, especially in this modern age where pleasure is at our fingertips. Every single time we scroll, every single time we can just turn on a different screen or do something that stimulates the senses, brings that hit of pleasure. So the mind is always trying to chase pleasure and avoid pain. Notice how afraid the mind is of pain, how it's constantly driving up scenarios about how to avoid pain. So, another set of worldly concerns is praise and blame. If you observe your mind's activity, you will notice it's constantly addicted to chasing praise. It wants approval of others and it wants to avoid blame. Even sometimes you notice you're wrong in an argument, but the mind's not willing to apologize, or the mind looks for other people or things to blame. Notice that within your mind. Truly observing these things within your own mind without judgment is what helps us to become free from this. And we will talk more about that. Let's cover the last set of worldly concerns: status and disgrace. Mind is trying to constantly improve its status. When its status arises, it feels great about itself. You know, people do some crazy things just for status. They buy things they can't afford. They act like who they're not really, just for a sense of perceived status. And we do anything in our power to avoid disgrace. When we feel that we have been disgraceful, the mind feels terrible about itself. Its self-image is shattered. So can you see that at the root of all of these worldly concerns is the self-image, which is your idea of who you are? It is your idea of who I am, the person that I take myself to be. This is what we call in spiritual teachings the ego. It is the ego on behalf of which we chase gain, we avoid loss. We chase pleasure, we avoid pain. We chase status, avoid disgrace. We chase praise and avoid blame. All the eight worldly concerns revolve around the nucleus, which is the ego, which is just our idea of ourself. It is the image we hold of ourself now. But this image itself is a changeful phenomena. Today, you have a certain image of yourself. Tomorrow, that image can change. Actually, moment by moment, that image changes. Day by day, it changes. But usually, we only perceive that change, let's say, after a few months or years. You see that, like, wow, how I viewed myself at that time and who I thought I was way different than who I think I am now. But who you think you are now is also just another mind made image on behalf of whom you are trying to chase all of these things and avoid all of these things. The ego lives in constant duality between the opposites. And that is why it feels so inherently restless. So that's why I say the more we are invested in the content of the mind, which, by the way, will always only revolve around these eight worldly concerns rooted in personal identity, ego, then it becomes more and more restless. It becomes darker and darker. This is what we refer to here on our channel as mind identification. It means to be totally identified with this image we have of ourselves and being lost in the endless concerns of the mind, the endless, restless pursuits of the mind. The greatest advice I have for anybody looking to go deeper into meditation and wanting peace, wanting to know who they truly are, starting to grow in self knowledge, is take some time every day and sit down away from everything. Close your eyes. And for the time being, who you think you are as a person and your life don't matter. If you're watching this video right now, give yourself the gift of doing this right now. Practice with me. For this moment, you and your life don't matter. Become empty of self concern. Allow yourself to step out of needing to constantly think about your existence. Just be, but have no need to describe your existence. Become empty of what you want and don't want, what you like and don't like. Become empty of past and future. Again, all of these things revolve around the ego. The more you unmask yourself, the more you step outside of these concerns, the more your mind will start to become calm and peaceful. So, how do we resolve or calm the restless mind? This is the essence of meditation. Stepping out of personal concern. So the first is meditation, and the second is surrender. Rather than being so lost in personal concern and being so lost in ideas of what I want and what must happen and what must not happen and what should never happen, start to surrender control of your life over to life, source, God, however you like to see it. In personal concern, in control, you'll never be at peace. In trust, in surrender, in acceptance, you will be at peace. One who trusts life, one who is surrendered, one whose life is no longer his or hers, but God's or source, has no cause for concern, no reason to worry, nothing to desire. They are empty, empty yet utterly full. The ego is full of its own self, right? Yet always it's empty. Whereas your true self, when you step out of personal concern and rest as your true self, you are inherently empty, but you are totally full, filled, and at peace. So, just looking over the past few years of my life, meditation has always been the cornerstone of my spiritual practice, the foundation. But what has brought me greater and greater clarity, peace, happiness, fulfillment is surrender. Getting out of my own ideas about what my life should be and how it should pan out, and learning to accept what actually happens, never being in conflict with the contents of the present moment, and always taking whatever happens in my life as a gift, a blessing from God, from source, from self, from life, and having no worry about how it will turn out, because that is also up to source. It is just no longer my job anymore. It reminds me of teaching by Ramana Maharshi. He said, "Why should we get on the train and hold our luggage on top of our head?" He said, "The train carries all loads. Set your luggage down and be at ease." So just like that, you may feel after the message of this video, but how can I stop being worried? How can I let go of being so concerned about my life and controlling? It's actually only an illusion that you are actually controlling. The mind makes you feel that by concerning and chasing and avoiding and resisting and controlling, that you actually have any control. In truth, life is still unfolding the way that it must. It's all the grace of God, the will of God, will of life. The more you start to let go of this illusory control, you will step into its grace. You will feel the presence of self. You will become more and more simple, more and more authentic, more and more happy. And the future for you will still be totally uncertain, because that is what the future is. It is the unknown, that which is not yet known. But you will be at ease. Meditation and surrender will take you there. So if you want to start living life in this way, I have a video that covers the main points of what it means to live a spiritual life in with these two cornerstones of practice. I will link that down below in the description box. And if you have any questions on this video, which I know this topic always brings up questions, you can either comment them down below and I'll do my best to respond. Otherwise, also post them in our free community, where you'll have also other resources that will help you with these practices, and a lovely community group where everybody's really willing to help. So let me know what you think about this. I hope this was helpful to you. Step out of concern, and the mind will no longer be restless. Don't wait that for the mind to stop being restless so that you can trust. Trust, step into surrender in order to still your mind in the peace of the self. All right, be well. See you next time.